All right, I spent the last few days trying to figure out how to outpaint with Flux2, and I just totally failed on every front, but I did manage to create a workflow that does kind of the same thing. So what I'm doing, and the reason it has to be Flux2 is Flux2 is the only one that can make an image like this, right? This is a texture that gets applied to a ground texture in like a terrain in a 3D world, and so it needs to be seamless and not have too many big hero things. It needs to be orthographic, not big shadows on it, not realistic, not a photograph. AI generators have a really difficult time with that because they want to render a photograph. They don't like this 2D orthographic, fully lit kind of thing. They struggle with it. But Flux2 can do it with no problem. So the way this works is we generate the base image, and the problem I was having with Flux2 is that it wants to generate it close up, right? This is like maybe 1 meter by 1 meter, and if you put this on a terrain in a world and it gets tiled, it looks like shit because it repeats so often, and you can't make it bigger because then these tiny little leaves and stuff, they become 5-foot leaves, and you can't have that. So what this does instead is we're going to quote-unquote outpaint, but not actually outpaint because Flux2 really struggles with outpainting. So we take this base image after we generate it, we come up here, we plug it into this load image, and it goes through this process of taking this image, downsampling it. So it starts at 1024, downsamples to 512, and then puts it in each corner and rotates it a little bit based on, this 180 degrees each time. And that makes it so that each corner is different, and then all the inner corners are not matching, and then all these side corners where these meet, they're not matching, so you don't get any one-to-one mirroring. And this needs to be there. It's really important because when you outpaint, like if you see down here, we're going to mask this. All the white area is going to get re-rendered, and the black areas are going to stay. So the corners are the only thing staying. Everything in the middle is going to get re-rendered, but it can't just re-render from something blank. You have to give it some material underneath to work with, otherwise Flux2 just absolutely freaks out. So that's what we do. We give it this image. That's why we create all this, to have an underlying image, and then we resample it with a denoise of 0.6. So we try and keep to this original color theme and style and everything, but try and overwrite some of those, like the worst offending parts. And so then we get this image, which is very similar to this image, just expanded and much larger, which is fantastic. It looks great, but now we need to make it seamless so that it's a seamless tile. So then we come over to this part, we make another mask. This mask is much thinner, a thinner cross in the middle, and that's a cross in the middle because we're going to do is offset. I'm going to take this image, and by offsetting it 50%, basically the corners all switch, and so what is now the outer edges is now down, straight down the center, and the center vertically and horizontally. And so then we can use this mask and re-render just that part, and we get a perfectly seamless image, and it's phenomenal. I'll show it really quick. All right, there you go. So you have your perfectly seamless tiled image from that initial generation, which the initial generation was like just a tiny little corner, right? It was like just this right here. It was the initial image, and then we've been able to expand it all the way out, and it looks phenomenal. It looks fantastic, and it's entirely done inside of Flux2. So down in the description, you're going to find a link to GitHub gist. There's going to be a big text document in there. You just highlight everything and copy it. Let me just go there really quick. All right. So this one, Flux2 expand seamless JSON. So once you're looking at the GitHub gist, you got this raw button at the top right. Just right click that, save link as, and it will give you the option to save it as a JSON file. Just save that anywhere on your hard drive. There you go. Now you've got your JSON file. Now you just drag this into your comfy UI, and you'll get this workflow. Everything down here is very close to the basic Flux2. We're using the float point 8 so that it will work on a 4090, which is what I have. The Mistral 3 Small Flux2 FP8. If you are on a 5090, you might be able to use the float point 16. I'm not sure. I don't have a 5090, so I can't test it, so I'm stuck on the float point 8. If I run float point 16, it takes me like 20 minutes to generate an image. It's totally useless for me. But this is all just the normal stuff. Hook it up, keep your guidance like 0.2. I mean, you can change it if you want to, but I found 0.2 gave really good results. The steps you can adjust as well. I found anything above 80, you get diminishing returns, but I mean, I want high quality stuff, so I set it to all the way up to 120 steps, but you can lower that. And it's also per area. So this one's got its own steps set to 120, and also this has a denoise of 0.6, like I mentioned previously. It needs this underlying texture to render with, and you choose how much you want it to keep with that with this number. You can change this to 1, and it will just ignore what's in the middle and try to blend the corners together, but the problem is it struggles keeping the style, like these tiny little rocks. It struggles with that, so you just end up with big boulders, which is, you know, what you have here, big boulders. If you just take this rock and stick it on this image, it's going to be huge. It's a huge boulder. So it has trouble with that. So that's why we give this just a little bit of denoising, so that it tries to keep these small details and not put anything huge in there. And then after this expand canvas is done, we take that image, we throw it in here, we offset it, and we mask it, and then we get our final seamless image. All right, I think that's it. I think that's all you need. You don't have to redo the clip or anything for either of these. They all take this single prompt, so you just fill out this one prompt and hit go. You can wire these all together, but I found that gives bad results. You kind of need to dial this in until you get something you like, and then manually move it up here and dial this in and keep running it and changing the steps and changing the denoise and whatever until you get something you like. And then you take that and you plug it in here and do the same thing until you get something you like. But it's pretty robust. It only takes 1 or 2 tries on each of them. This one usually gets it right away. It's this expanding one that's a little bit difficult. Sometimes I have to run it 2 or 3 times before I get something that I like. But the one that makes it seamless, it's like 100%. It's almost every time. It's perfect. All right, hopefully this helps somebody. Literally spent like 3 days just trying to. I went through. Oh my God, look at this. I went through Flux2. I went through Flux1. I went through Quen. I went through SD 3.5, I used Z image. I did so many pipelines and none of them worked. Flux2 is the only one that works, and it only works like this, in this method. If you try and do a regular outpaint with Flux2, it just destroys the original image. It can't do it right, and then it also can't blend between the new image and the old image. But this made it work, sort of really hacky. It's not exactly outpainting, but it's kind of the same thing, right? We're taking an image and expanding it, and then we're making it tile or seamless. So it kind of is outpainting, but not exactly is outpainting, but it gets the same thing done. I'm calling it a win. I like it. It works.